Hola a todos, yo soy Mauricio Romero Figueroa, bienvenidos a Experiencias que Forman, la serie de gente que hace cine en colaboración con la Comisión Fílmica Colombia. Hoy tenemos un programa especial, we have a very special program, en el que profundizaremos en el impacto de la Ley 1556 para el cine en nuestro país a través de dos invitados de lujo que han trabajado en producciones que se grabaron aquí en Colombia. Nuestros invitados son verdaderas leyendas en el mundo de los dobles de acción, con carreras que abarcan distintas épocas. Es un honor tenerlos aquí para hablar sobre su arte, sus experiencias en Colombia y la evolución de su oficio. Sin más preámbulos, presentemos a nuestros invitados de hoy. En primer lugar, tenemos a un verdadero pionero con una trayectoria que ha influido en generaciones de dobles. Él es un especialista en acrobacias con vehículos, famoso por su trabajo en películas clásicas de los años 70 y 80. La película Hooper de Burt Reynolds es un tributo a su vida y a sus hazañas. Es uno de los fundadores de la prestigiosa organización Stunts Unlimited y un hombre cuya carrera es sinónimo de la edad de oro de las acrobacias. Es un honor recibir a Buddy Joe Hooke. Buddy Joe, it's an honor to have you here in our podcast.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Y con nosotros también, representando a la nueva generación de especialistas en grandes producciones, tenemos un talento que ha participado en las franquicias más exitosas del cine moderno. Ha sido parte del equipo de dobles de acción en sagas como Piratas del Caribe, el universo cinematográfico de Marvel. Ha trabajado como coordinador de especialistas, stunt rigger, stunt coordinator. También ha sido tanto como Buddy Joe, director de segundas unidades. Demos la bienvenida a Brycen Counts. Brycen, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Okay, let's start with this interview. Thank you both again for being here. It's a huge honor. Brycen, you served as a stunt coordinator for the live-action film Dora here in Colombia. What was that experience like for you? And what was your perception on the local stunt performers and other technical areas you worked with?
Well, I enjoyed Colombia. My expectations were different than my perception when I got here, so it was different. I expected it to be, honestly, I expected it to be hotter in Bogota. When I got there, and I didn't realize how high up the elevation was. My expectations were different. I talked to some people that came down and worked in Colombia. I found your local crew to be hardworking, professional, and extremely willing to go out of their way for some requests that might have been a little more challenging. I had a great experience. The local stunt team that I worked with there, with the Legionnaires, another friend of mine had used them before, and so I had talked to him about it before I came down, and he had positive reviews, and I had a great experience with them. I think they were willing to learn, which is important to go somewhere. They had a lot of questions, which my key rigger and I were happy to answer. I think we even went to their gym a few times just to do a little bit of informational seminar stuff, and they allowed us in their facility. So I find when you go to places in other parts of the world, sometimes people are not as open to learning or the way we want to do things or the way we've done them in the past. And I didn't find that there in Colombia. I thought everybody was great.
No, fantastic. Did you bring your team, or you worked only with legendary stunts here?
I brought two people with me, a key rigger and another performer slash rigger. That's an area that requires a lot of expertise and a lot of years. So I find when you take those people with you, they can help and assist with the local teams to make sure that the wire rigs go right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Okay, and Buddy Joe is your name, or just Buddy?
Buddy Joe.
Buddy Joe, you also worked in Colombia as the
Yes.
stunt coordinator for Sierra Madre, starring Kiefer Sutherland. Can you share
hmm
your experience on that production and your thoughts
Um,
on the
My
stunt professionals you
experience
found here?
was similar to Bryson's, is
Yeah.
that my expectations were, you know, not real high.
Mm.
I had talked to some people that worked in Colombia before, and it was encouraging, but still, you have those trepidations about, what you're going to find when you get there and how people will react to you and so forth. But uh, I had a great stunt group, Burning Bull, with Gabriel Riza and his guys, and they were fantastic. I mean, they were very interested in learning. They followed directions perfectly. They were very professional on the set. I was expecting them to be kind of rather archaic in the way they approach things and everything, but they were, you know, spot on the whole way. Their set etiquette was perfect. They were just very, very respectful. And the thing that I found is that they really were interested in learning, and they listened. And when you told them what you needed, if they had any questions or didn't understand it exactly right, uh, they would hang in there until we had it all down. So uh, every shot we did came out perfect. I mean, the choreography, and we, it's a little tough going into a foreign country by yourself. So, I didn't really have uh, another person there to, play off of or help me demonstrate or anything. So it was just a slight difficulty that way. The language barrier wasn't a big issue. Gabrielle, spoke great English. My Spanish could have been a lot better. When I go back, I'm going to work on that. But everything was great. I found that all of their skill sets were fantastic. They had no problem with working in, as far as I was concerned, some difficult areas where, we didn't have the time to prepare certain areas for their falls and all that kind of stuff. So, they went for it. When I said, 15 of you guys got to come down here. And when this happens or that happens, or you get a cue, just wherever you are, you got to go for it, you know. And they were good. And so they did it time and time again, which I thought was really good. There's a difference in working with stuntmen in other countries. Is in the States, every time you do a shot, you get paid for it in what we call stunt adjustments. So in Colombia, I found that they did it over and over and over again for the same daily rate, which to me was, I found that extraordinary because of their zeal and no complaining, no anything. It was just like they were very, very happy to be there and to do exactly what I wanted. I also found them to be very creative. When they would do what I wanted, but if I would take them aside, okay, we've already done it that way a couple times. You Is there another way you would like to do it? Like you've done that same bullet hit three times right now. What do you want to change? You know, and so they were very creative about, you know, how to do things differently. And when you would ask them for help or how that they thought maybe we could do a certain sequence better, because I wanted to hear how what their thinking was too. So they would always come up with uh, creative stuff and with a can do attitude. There was no no's in their vocabulary whatsoever. Whatever you ask them to do, they were good to go for it. And you know, I'm I'm a coach. Like when you're a stunt coordinator, you are a coach because you have a team. So you have to be very mindful of taking care of them. You know, I'm not an abusive stunt coordinator where I want to have my guys do things that will be abusive or damaging or let them get hurt in any which way. And that's part of what we do as a stunt coordinator is watch out for our people. And so all that worked out really good for the whole time I was there. I don't think we used a band-aid once. So it all worked out really good. I can only say again, I think that the stunt group that I worked with, if they're kind of reminiscent of the rest of the stunt community, is that they were excellent.
Let's do a little flashback. I'd love to hear about, well, we'd love to hear about the very beginning of your careers. Brycen, at what point in your career did you realize that this was your calling and that you prefer being a stunt performer over pursuing other areas or acting or directing or
I originally moved to Los Angeles to be a stuntman
yeah.
right out of college. And I didn't know how long that was going to go for. I didn't know anything about it. I just sort of moved down and, I did odd jobs and it took me a couple years to get my first break. Um, I worked on a movie called Pearl Harbor. That was my first movie that I did. And I was able to, after that, to continue to work. Um, and that was pretty much what I wanted to do. Then about 12 years ago, I got the opportunity to start coordinating a TV show that a friend of mine was doing in Atlanta, and it moved to Los Angeles. So I took it over here in Los Angeles, and I enjoyed doing that. But then I would coordinate the TV show, and then when the TV show would go on hiatus, I would still perform and do stunts in the hiatus. And then I would go back to coordinating the TV show. So I did that for a couple years, and then I had an opportunity to go to Australia and do a movie for a friend of mine. So I left the TV show and went back to Australia and was just a performer on that one. Um, and then another opportunity came along for me to be an assistant coordinator to somebody. So I started that job and did about 6 movies in that world, and that took me to some interesting places. And then after that, I did my first solo coordinating film about 6 years ago called The Old Guard, and that was a movie that was filmed in London with Charlize Theron. So I did that, and then it's been pretty good ever since.
Yeah. Yeah. In your case, buddy Joe, you start your career being an actor. Rin Tin Tin?
I started my, first of all, let me do a little backstory here. My father was a stunt coordinator, stunt man. Back then, most of what they did was Western work. So that was, the basis of my skill set was horse work, Western stuff. So my father was a stunt coordinator on a TV series called Rin Tin Tin, way back there before you were born. So anyway, I did my first stunt when I was 13. Back then, there was really no laws about, you know, youngsters doing stunts or anything. So I started my career at 13, uh, worked until, you know, different things, Dublin kids, all that kind of stuff. And my father, being a stuntman and have gone through all the trials and tribulations and injuries and all that, didn't want me to be a stuntman. So he wanted me to be an actor. So we kind of changed my career a little bit, and my father got me an agent. He knew a lot of people in town, so I started doing acting stuff, no more stunt work. So I did, I was on Leave It to Beaver for 3 years playing a role called Chester and had a great uh, time for the next, all the way through high school, pretty much, Twilight Zone, all these kind of things, as an actor. But it it was great, and I was kind of okay at it. I wasn't that enthused about it. I'd rather be, hanging out with my buddies than working on the set and all that kind of stuff. So that's how it all started. And then, not until after I got out of uh, college, went for a little higher learning, a little more something less physical. And then when I was about 22, 21, somewhere around there, my I was old enough to make my own decisions. So I told my father, acting's not my deal. I want to do stunt work. So then he helped me out, and I think I was probably a little bit early. So he helped me get going, and back then he had a lot of stunt friends of his, coordinators and everything, but there was a lot of jealousy and a lot of that kind of thing. So all of his clout didn't work too much. So the way it happened back then is you did extra work on a set. You became an extra. So instead of working SAG, Screen Actors Guild, now you're a screen extra doing background work and stuff. But on the set, the assistant directors back there in that day were actually stunt coordinators. They would pick, okay, we want you to get on a horse. We want you to do a saddle fall. We want you to do this, that, bullet hit, whatever. So that's where you really started getting a chance to show who you are and what you could do and all that kind of stuff. So that's when it all started happening.
Let's go back to the very, very present. Okay, what do you think about your job and the risk or the challenging about AI and stunt universe? What do you think about Brycen?
I'm not really sure where this is going to go with the AI. It's a little bit scary in the sense I've seen what they can do. I think that it can have its place, or it's going to have its place in our business. I just don't know how far of a pie piece that's going to take. As far as when it comes to stunts, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure anybody does. A lot of the work that we do is trial and error. When I first start a film, I usually will have a rehearsal stage and I'll bring people in and I'll pick apart a sequence and I'll take the sequence and design the action for it and we'll shoot what they call a stunt viz. And I take that and I show it to a director and they tell me what they like and what they don't like about it. Then I take that and go back and do it again. I keep doing that until I get the sequence the way they want to do it, and then I move on to the other sequence. So I don't know if AI is going to take the place of that, where they can actually just design the sequence without me. I have a feeling it's going to be tough to replace because they kind of have that already, and a lot of the features I've done will have a previs. It's done by a team called Third Floor. It's a company that basically designs motion capture sequences, and they'll do basically a cartoon version of the movie. And what they do is they have different teams develop different sequences, and then sometimes when you watch the sequence in order of shooting or in order of the film, they've actually repeated a lot of the same action, and I consider it it's not very good. It was designed by someone who doesn't do this for a living. It would be like I can talk, but am I an actor? Absolutely not. I can sit there and say the lines. Do they come across the same as somebody else? Absolutely not. So I think that there is a place for that, but I do feel like when our team gets involved, we do make the project better and more exciting than what it originally started at. And again, it always comes from the director. Like we'll take things, but you might have to bring it up. Like, hey, in this, you've got these two previses that are together in the film. They're going to be 90 seconds apart, and you've got a guy doing the same front flip 3 times in this sequence. And it was designed by 3 different people who all thought this was a great idea, and it's not a great idea. You shouldn't do that. And so I think that's where our expertise comes into play. But to go back to your answer about I have no idea if they'll be able to tell the computer to come up with some cool action sequences and it just spits it out without having to do all the work that we do. It might take me a couple days to do that. It might take that 7 seconds. I have no idea. So it's a little bit scary in the sense, but I also feel like I heard this song and dance before. I did a mocap movie called Beowulf about 20 years ago, and everybody was saying how it was going to be the new way to make movies and it was going to take over the way to make films, and it never did. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
we don't know. But what about you, buddy? What do you think?
Well, Bryson covered it pretty well. One thing that was refreshing about being in Colombia was I didn't get a sense of any of that higher, not a bad way, but that higher technology is taking over or was present. It was very refreshing to do films like the old school way, where to my way of thinking, the best way to do something, and even nowadays, the way to do different stuff is to do it for real. You know, like we went through this same thing with CGI. AI, I think it will run the same gamut. CGI cost a lot of jobs for stunt people for sure, but it has its place. But it's pretty much run its gamut as far as I'm concerned. Is that audiences are getting tired of that kind of stuff, that they want to get back to reality. And in fact, that's why people used to go to films in the first place, was to enjoy themselves and you know get away from reality and all of that, and get back to just enjoying themselves. And I think this, Fast and Furious, all that kind of stuff, to me, is boring. I can't watch it anymore because it's just so repetitious, same kind of stuff. So I think that the AI might do the same thing. I agree with Bryson, is that, there's always going to be a place for stunt people, just because of the way our minds work, is that we know how things should be done, more than that AI guy sitting in the computer. Is that, we know how it works, and there's a certain creativity there that I don't think that you're going to be able to create artificially. So, uh, you know, hopefully not. And people, I think, will at one point just say, "Hey, I want to see something real."
One of the things we do for every interview is ask our audience for the questions. A lot of people wanted to know, um, when an action sequence is written into a script, how much detail is usually there to construct an scene, a stunt scene. Bryson, when you read that script.
It really depends on the project. In my opinion, the less descriptive, the better it's going to be. If the writer knew how to describe action, I would be impressed. So it's like trying to be a fight professional boxer and explain someone who just watches boxing, trying to type out a commentary of a boxing fight. It doesn't really work. So I find the less descriptive the action sequence is, the more creative we get to be, and the more the director ends up liking the sequence. So I did a movie called Doctor Strange 2, and in one of the sequences it says the Illuminati fight the Scarlet Witch. That was it.
Hmm.
So the
Well,
director asked me to go put a sequence together.
that's it in the script.
That's it. That's it. And I said, how long do you want it? He said,
Well,
well, it needs to be somewhere around this to that. And so we made a sequence. We go back and forth. with what characters he wanted in it, and we go back and forth, and we came up with a sequence that was what ended up in the movie. So less description. There wasn't a whole lot of dialogue in that, so they didn't have to put any dialogue in it. It was just a fight sequence between a bunch of superheroes. So the team had put together a really good sequence, and we shot it, and it was in the movie. So I find less descriptive the action sequences, the more creative we can be to an extent. Obviously, you need to know when and where and how long is a big one. It just depends how much money they want to spend. You can do anything if you have time and money. So that's just been my experience. So the more descriptive, the less I like it. I don't want to hear the character does a leg sweep, and I don't want to hear any descriptive action stuff. Let us design that. That's what we do for a living. So I don't know. Buddy Joe may have a different experience, but that's what I have so far.
But Joe, you remember some specific scene when you
Do I
find
remember?
just uh, a sentence and then you construct the scene?
Well, it was like on Godfather 3, there was a scene that was about a third of a page. And it was like the helicopters come and annihilate all of the mob on the 22nd floor of a building where they were having a big, you know, meeting. And that was it, right? Third of a page. So by the time I got with Francis and we started, Francis, what do you want to see here? Are we going to see the helicopters? Are we just going to see them, hear them? Are we going to see the aftermath? I mean, what do you want to see? What's killing these guys? Are they like miniguns? All this kind of stuff, right? So in that instance, it was great not to have too much information, but this third of a page turned out to be a week and a half shooting on a set at Cinecittà in Rome. So it, one third of a page turned into a huge sequence in the film, which, by the way, turned out pretty good. Uh, Same, I did a lot of, I've done or did 6 films with William Friedkin, who was a director that, was known for his action sequences. And in his, he would get a script, and I would read it and everything. And then Billy would rewrite the script, especially the action. And he, you know, that was his deal. So when first film I did with him was called To Live and Die in L.A., which back then was one of the ended up to be one of the biggest car chases that had been done at the time. Uh, all real, no CGI. Uh, and so, what it was when you have a director like Billy Friedkin that really does understand action and how he wants to see it on the screen, and how it plays into the storyline and all that kind of stuff. I feel it's really good to have a director like that has written a lot of information because especially with him, it gives you places to go. There's great ideas that he already has that he will allow you to elaborate on and everything. So, uh, in some instances, I've found it to be very helpful to have a lot of information if the director is action oriented, or at least to give you what's happening and how he wants this story to go.
Bryson, have you ever seen the final version of a film and felt disappointed with how your stunt was edited?
Not really. I mean, no, it's not up to me. I mean, I do the best I can with what I'm given, but I'm just a vehicle for a director's ideas. So I ask them what they want to see. They tell me what they want to see. then that's great. It's an easy day at work, you know. If I don't really know what they want to see, then that's become a little more challenging. Then you get to be a little more creative. But the bottom line is it's never up to me. They can ask my opinion. I can give it. They might not like it. But have I been disappointed? More as a performer than as a coordinator. So as a performer, I would do something. Oh man, that looks lame. I thought it looked way better than that.
Or
As a coordinator,
the editor could select a better shot or something. Or
well, they just could have lengthened one or, carried it a little bit longer. As a performer, I would look at those and be a little more disappointed. As a coordinator, it's like, whatever they want. It's not to me. It's not my job to take it personally. So I really don't. I kind of have thick skin and I do what they want me to do, and if and I just make sure it's safe. If they want me to do something that's unsafe, that's when I'll have a sticking point. But for the most job, my job is not to say no. My job is to say, yeah, I can do anything with time and money. I can pretty much do anything.
yeah, yeah,
If you have enough money, we can do it. So yeah, I don't really get too disappointed like that.
Buddy Joe, beyond the physical danger, what is the most challenging part of your job? Is it long hours, the constant pressure?
As a stunt performer or as a coordinator?
Okay, as a stunt performer, for example.
As a stunt performer, the worst thing that aside from serious injury, which I would almost rather have that, is to do a stunt that I'm unhappy with, that I don't do well. That's the biggest problem to me. The worst thing that could happen to me is to do a bad stunt. Because that's how I started out. That's how I got where I got, was because of my stunt work, which led me to coordinating, second unit directing, all the rest of it. But in the beginning, that was what was the most important thing to me ever, was to do the stunt correctly. You know, personal injury or death or any of that never entered my mind. But back in those days, I was kind of immortal. And so that's the worst thing that I could think ever about personally doing stunts, is to do a bad one.
Yeah, and in your case, Brycen.
I would say the most challenging thing is trying to make everybody happy.
Ah, wow.
So you've got different opinions. I've got a director's opinion, then you've got a studio opinion, then you've got an actor's opinion, and you have to be sort of mindful to all of them. Sometimes designing a sequence is like the easier part, but trying to filter through everybody's ideas to find what's going to make the best product. Sometimes is a little bit more of a finesse job. So sometimes and basically my job on the set is to make the director happy. But then sometimes you get approached by other people that also make decisions, and they may have some other ideas, and it really gets a little bit confusing. And sometimes I feel like that is challenging waters to go through. So
Yeah,
I think it's just like any other job, whether you're a doctor or anything else, you're having to sort of go back and forth and try to take everybody's input and do the best you can.
yeah. Because probably you have many bosses, voices talking
Yeah.
around you.
Well, you have one boss that's the director, but then you've got other people that have make financial decisions, and you've got other people that, and when an actor comes to you and they're a big name actor, and maybe they're a producer too, they have ideas. And they say, I don't want to do that. And like, oh man, that puts you in a tight spot, because then you're sitting there trying to make everybody happy. And I think that's just one of those challenges with like I said, not just our business, but any business you have to deal with. And that has pretty much nothing to do with the action of the film, but you still have to deal with it regardless.
We are approaching to the end of our episode. It has been an honor to hear your
No,
incredible stories.
no.
No, but no, I have one important question. Yes,
Okay.
if you could give one piece of advice of a young person starting a career in stunt work today, for example, a Colombian stunt who is starting his career or her career. Uh, what is that advice you can give to them, Buddy Joe?
To me, a young stunt guy that's starting out, just take myself, try to remember how I started out, was to be as have as many skill sets as you can, uh, to work very, very hard at everything that you do, because the more skill sets you have, if you can do a 45-foot high fall, you can do a 90-foot high fall, you can do high falls, you can do fire, full burns, you can do air ramps, you can do motorcycles, cars. The more things that you can do, the more you're going to work, right? But everything that you put on your resume or any job that you accept from a coordinator, you better do it really, really good, because the only thing people remember is the last bad thing you did. They don't remember all the good stuff. So it's to get your skill sets where you are really, really good at everything you got in your stunt bag. You know, that when they call you tomorrow, you don't have to go train, or you don't have to go rehearse on an air ramp. You got it down, and you're going to go out there and blow their minds. So every stunt you do, you should do it as best you can and put your own little signature trait on it. So when you go out there and you do a bullet hit and you come apart, and do something really cool, everybody knows who that is. They want to play it back and look at it again. Wow, that was something. That was so and so. Because no matter what he does, he goes for it big every time. So that's my idea. And the other thing is that every young stuntman, I feel, should have a great background in gymnastics. The reason being is that that's where you get body control, where you know where your body is at all times, and your mind has put you in that position voluntarily. It's like when you drive a car, you make the car do what you want it to do, and you'll be a great driver. You can't do stuff and let the car do it. You have to be in control. Same with your body. And that way you will have less injuries, and everything you do will be fluid and nice. If they want non fluid, you can do that too.
Excellent. And your advice, Bryson, how can you add
Yeah.
this
Well, I
advice?
took Buddy Joe's. I was a gymnast for 15 years, so I started
Yeah.
out. That was my background. I would say for the young performer, just building on what Buddy Joe said, regardless of the skills, listen. Listen to what people tell you. If you ask a question, listen to the answer and absorb it. A lot of times I'll get a thing where I tell somebody what I feel is very specific to do, and they do something different, and I would say, "Why did you do that?" Well, I thought it would look good if I did this, and so it's not what I asked for. So now I have to do it again. So I think listening is a key trait. You don't have to talk a lot. Most people's careers don't get enhanced when they talk more. It actually goes the other way. So I think a good listener, someone who can take those notes and translate them physically, is gonna have a good career. And as Buddy Joe said, jack of all trades, master of none. So you just need to be as employable as possible. And I also think that the things that are easy to do are what people can make mistakes on. It's really easy to show up on time. It's really easy to to do what you're supposed to do. It's easy to be polite to people. That's another one I have a big issue with. I want people to to have manners when they work for me, whether it's with me or other departments. I was just raised in the South by someone who was a military professional. So I find that a little bit of respect goes a long way, and not just in our department, but to everybody. Um, Skill set physically, it's important. As Buddy Joe said, to be as diverse as possible. You'll be on the job for sooner and longer. So if they need someone who's just a driver, they might hire just a driver. But if you can drive and you can take good reactions and you can do fights well, then you're more well-rounded and you're more employable.
Skill sets, listen, and make a good questions, for example.
Yeah.
Another skills that you need not only in the stunts universe, in life.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think those translate through across every profession.
Brycen, any possibilities to go back to Colombia for?
I haven't heard any. I would be happy to go back. I always like going back to places that I've worked in before. You know, there's always places where you go, I'll never be back here again, and you end up back there again. So I would look forward to coming to Colombia. I enjoyed it there. I enjoyed the people. I got to see a little bit of the country. I got to go up to Bogota, mostly on stages, and then we were. It was, I can't remember the name of the amusement park, but it's the estates that used to be up there. It's about 6 hours outside of Bogota. Um, it was like a zoo and an amusement park. We sat there. That was, uh, I enjoyed that. I actually like the jungle heat. The jungle doesn't bother me. I've been to a bunch of different jungles all over the world. And I found Bogota's to be less filled with poisonous things than some of the other ones I've been to. So I liked it. I thought it was great.
You will welcome here every time. Buddy Joe and Brycen, thank you so much for your time and and for sharing your incredible experiences. It was a true pleasure to have you with us and to let our audience in Colombia who are so passionate about film, about cinema, and stunt universe that you're legends for us. Thank you very much. You don't know how important is this conversation for our podcast and for our industry. Thank you very much.